My sister turned my life into a training ground for patience, taking everything I had and pretending I didn't need it. She got the house, the parents, all their love, as if she were the queen and I, just a guest. But when she decided that my apartment should be hers too, I knew it was time to act. The party was just getting started, and I promised myself that it wouldn't end the way she planned. My name is Alex. I'm 27, and I thought nothing could surprise me anymore when it came to my family. But my older sister Katie, who, mind you, is 30, seems to break the mold every time a brilliant idea pops into her spoiled head. Yes, our family is a real soap opera, with Katie always cast as the golden child, the one for whom everything just falls into place effortlessly. Since childhood, my parents saw her as the ideal, as if she wore a shining crown. And me? Apparently just the backdrop to her radiance. Our childhood was typical enough, but Katie managed to squeeze every possible resource from our parents, and then some. She seemed to have a gift for it, one she refined over the years. All she needed was a little whining, and out came the wallets. Now she's got a new idea. She's ready for a big adult life. She simply must have a large house in a prestigious area. My dear sister has gone on and on about her great dream, explaining how she absolutely needs this house. She's planning on having a family, you see, and her current apartment is far too cramped for such plans. Sure, we all believe Katie is eager to be a loving mother and homemaker, but who knows? It's probably just another scheme to take out a massive loan she'll never repay. But it sounds nice. And of course, who would deny her? My parents were already beaming, ready to sponsor her beautiful future. Then things took a wild, absurd turn, and I nearly laughed out loud. My parents suggested selling my apartment. Yes, not her tiny apartment downtown, but my apartment, the very one I'd spent years saving for, even though they helped with the initial down payment. It was my first property, my sanctuary. And here they were, telling me I didn't need it, saying, a single guy doesn't need his own place. I could live in a rental. What mattered was that their precious Katie had room for her family nest. And just like that, without even asking me. At first I just sat there in silence, staring at them, trying to figure out if they were joking or had lost their minds. But no, they were dead serious, as if I were just another piece of furniture they could sacrifice for their princess's happiness. That's when I realized it was time to act. When I understood that my parents were seriously considering selling my apartment for Katie's latest whim, I felt a real fire ignite inside me. Imagine, people who once helped you choose your first property, now suggesting you part with it so their darling daughter can live in her well-deserved dream home. No, I wasn't about to sit and watch this happen. Sure, everyone knew that Katie was, and would always be, the queen of drama. A master manipulator and adored princess, with a knack for getting whatever she wanted. My parents believed she could handle any problem. She was the strong one after all. Unlike me, the indifferent one, as they loved to call me. But this time, I decided I'd had enough of the family hierarchy. A crazy idea popped into my head, one that was not only bold, but a little dangerous. But wasn't that perfect? To slightly adjust her perfect plan and finally make Katie face the consequences. I called my friend Dave. Dave, who's 29, has been successfully navigating the real estate market for years, always knowing how to turn deals to his advantage. He had often joked that my family could easily star in a reality show. I told him about the whole farce, and he just laughed. Dude, you're gonna need some popcorn, because with this plan, the show is about to get spicy. So we decided to help Katie with her loan, but in a way where the risks were all hers. It was a clever plan. Dave used all his knowledge to put together a loan contract that looked standard, but had a couple of hidden clauses that, if they came up, would be too late for her to avoid. On paper, it was all perfectly legal, but in reality, it was a ticking time bomb. Then came the signing day. I remember Katie's smile as she held the pen, her face beaming with satisfaction. She was, as always, certain that she was getting everything she wanted, without a single risk. She signed the contract without even glancing at the fine print, completely confident her future was secure in this grand house. A few weeks passed, and in the midst of all this family drama, I started to feel a kind of dark satisfaction at the thought that her perfect life might soon start to unravel. It was like watching a new episode of a favorite show, knowing that the climax was near. And then the moment I'd been waiting for arrived. The first mortgage bill. Katie opened the envelope as if it were a letter of joy, expecting another bouquet of compliments from fate. But instead, her face dropped as she saw the payment amount. The money wasn't just dripping out, it was pouring, and she clearly hadn't expected the cost to be so high. But what did Katie do? Instead of trying to handle it herself, she ran straight to our parents with her classic, "Mom, Dad, help me!" It was her go-to rescue plan, and before, it had always worked like a charm. But this time, she faced something unexpected. Our parents started asking questions. I stood on the sidelines, like a modest observer, but the whole situation was textbook manipulation material. For the first time, they began to doubt her perfect story. When Katie tried explaining how much she needed for the needs of the house, my parents froze for a moment, realizing that this situation was spiraling out of control. My dad bluntly asked her why she couldn't manage her own finances if she decided on an adult venture like buying a house. His face turned stone cold, and for the first time, I saw them looking at her not as their spoiled princess, but as an ordinary person caught in a mess. They were starting to see that supporting her in this wasn't the brightest idea. The more they learned about her expenses and debts, the less willing they were to fund her family future. And when my dad was on the verge of shouting at her, Katie did the one thing she's best at. She convinced herself everything would work out on its own. But when Dad told her that he was out of money, her confidence took a hit. And there it was, the moment of truth. A few more weeks went by, and Katie was hit with a snowball of problems. Every day, her perfect little world was crumbling faster. She missed another payment and got hit with a hefty penalty. Our parents had to dip into their savings to bail her out, and it was a rude awakening for them. They had to make a huge sacrifice for yet another one of her whims, and that was when they started to see that their golden child had some very big appetites. The climax came the day they found out that Katie had used part of the loan for new furniture and luxurious trinkets for the house. My dad practically exploded. "Do you seriously think this is normal?" He shouted so loudly the neighbors could probably hear him. My mom stood by, stunned, as if she were seeing Katie for who she truly was for the first time. Not the angel they adored, but a selfish girl draining them dry. Katie tried blaming me, as usual, but it was pitiful. It was funny to watch her scramble for someone to blame, even though she was neck-deep in debt of her own making. But that was the moment our parents finally saw her true colors. All her pretty words about a future family were just a cover for her latest spree. They finally saw the real Katie, the one I'd known all along.